Well, I say every day. It's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
We're not qualified.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience.
I will do this thing. If you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Greetings, welcome to the Screaming into the Void, episode number 91. As you can see, it's just me today, so apologize about all the boringness on the screen. I will try to have some stuff up to make this a little bit more palatable, but in the meantime, just think of it kind of like radio. It is what it is. Most of our cast and crew are off traveling to the Vegas F&T meetup. Give me just a second. I have something turned up here that should not be. And whatnot. So here we are. This, but you know, the show must go on. So my name is Samuel the Infamous. If you are new here, welcome. If not, well, you know how this goes. It's a little bit strange. I haven't done a stream by myself in quite some time. You know, it's a little weird having nobody to audibly bounce off of, but it is what it is, and we will make the best of it as we go along. So we are live currently on Rumble, Twix, and YouTube. So if you're in any one of those places, feel free to drop comments, sort of thing. And also the descriptions for fellow cast members on Rumble and on YouTube are in the description below, so you can also check them out, despite them, you know, not being here today. So, and who knows, maybe somebody will show up. But it's just kind of how it is. And I honestly, I nearly canceled today just because, you know, there was slim to no chance of anybody else being able to make it, just because that's how life works out sometimes, you know. But I decided to go ahead with it anyway, partially because we've gone a couple of weeks without one of these, which is a couple of weeks too long. I like to do this weekly. And, you know, I mean, through no fault necessarily of my own or anyone else's, but we had some internet issues last week that prevented us from doing anything at all. And it kind of gets in the way a little bit, but we're back and we're live now. Speaking of which, if there are any internet issues, I will resolve them as soon as I possibly can. So, you know, bear with me on that, because like I said, I don't have perfect internet, but we'll work it out one way or the other. All right. So it's been kind of a strange week. We were going to do a show on climate change and the you know, surrounding dialogue last week, but you know, as I said, weren't able to run a show. So we do have some stuff for that from a while back, but it's a little outdated now in terms of timeliness, I think is the word, in terms of you know, being on the point. There's been some stuff happening in Brazil. A lot of bad shit's going on down there. Denver has decided to do some funky stuff here very recently, and yeah, it's been, oh, and there was a stabbing spree. I think early this morning or yesterday in Australia, in a place called Bondi Junction. So, you know, we can talk about any and all of that as we go along. So, yeah, I also have some stuff that I say just because I don't know, you know, it'll get brought up or not. A little bit of stuff about a certain injection, which may or may not bring up because we are on YouTube and we know how YouTube loves to shut that shit down. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are new to the show, they did in fact pull an episode of this and boot me off of their platform for about a week because I was quoting someone else in regards to a certain injection. And certain consequences that may or may not allegedly have anything to do with said injection. Um, so it is what it is. But yeah, so we've got a few things here. We'll probably start with some more recent stuff and then move into probably touch on some climate change stuff. There's a geologist who came out and just destroyed the whole climate emergency argument here recently. It's pretty interesting. We might check that out. Greetings, Winky Wakey Woo, over on the Rumble side. Yeah, essentially, that's kind of how I'm feeling about it lately. I'm no longer as concerned with keeping the channel alive as I once was, and yeah, I mean we've been on there for a couple of years at this point, coming up on 2 years, and I do like the reach that it gives us, but honestly, I'm not monetized over there. There's and growth has been kind of stagnant. Some of that is my fault, and some of that is probably not my fault. So yeah, I don't know. Branching out to other platforms. Hell, we did a show last night on all 3 platforms, and by far the biggest numbers were on Twix. I think we hit at our peak something like 250 live viewers, and only 14 of those were on Rumble and YouTube. So that's what it is. So we might look into getting actually verified on Twix. I have not done that. I thought about it. I haven't done it. Mainly because who the hell needs another per month subscription, right? But I've thought about doing that. Seeing if I can't get some of those sweet view dollars. And we do seem to be reaching a larger audience over there anyway. But it's, as I've said since the beginning, I'm doing this because I want to do it, because it's fun, because I enjoy it. Not so much to make money. I have a day job, which, I don't intend to leave anytime soon. But I'm also a capitalist, and I'm not necessarily going to say no to money. It is what it is. And yeah, Winky, I agree. Rumble's got some issues that it does need to get worked out. It's not 100% user friendly, and I get that they're having to build their own shit, their own platform, without crossing any, I guess, copyrighted or I think copyrighted lines or anything like that. But they do the URL or the user interface has some issues. There's some other stuff going on there. There's some censorship in the chat issues. Certain words you can and can't use that they don't tell you about, that kind of thing. There are some issues on Rumble. There are issues anywhere you're gonna go. Like the fact that if I'm streaming on Twix, but the CEO of Twix is still a board member at an organization that I fucking despise. So like you got to make compromises somewhere, I guess. It is what it is. So actually, now that I think about it, let's start with this video that I got for climate change. Now that I've got it up in front of me, and I kind of want you guys to hear all this. This is pretty good. So let me bring it up full screen here. And he does. He just like rips into it. It's pretty hysterical. So, all right, there we go. You should be able to hear this when I press play. If you cannot, please let me know in the chat. And I will do what I can to fix that.
We hear about climate science.
Holy shit, that's loud in my headphones. I'm gonna drop that down just a little bit. There we go. All right, let's start that over again.
We hear about climate scientists, whatever that is. Now, in geology, we have a 250-year track record of arguing about climate. Textbooks are full of it. We've been labouring about climate for a long while, and then there's this sudden new invention of climate science. And I had some of these when I was head of department at the University of Melbourne, and these are embittered obscure, unemployable academics funded by your taxes, and those taxes are to fund these people's hobbies. And the end result of that is that they put good people out of work and they cost our nation trillions. So there's one group of people that use models, another group of people, I mean, this is really sinful. We use evidence, and the two are not in accord. And if they're not in accord, you've got to throw out the models, which we've seen time and time again are incorrect. So we can look back in the past and we can see that we've had 6 great ice ages. During that ice age, we'll have the ice expand, that's a glaciation, or it will contract, that's an interglacial.
So this plays into something that I've been saying for a long time now, and I'm not a scientist by any means. And in fact, in the disclaimer below, you will find a statement that reads, "We are not experts in anything, just people talking." And that's true. I'm not an expert in anything. You know, I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but I don't know a lot about any one thing. It's just kind of how it is. But in terms of climate change, right? Climates change. That's what they do, right? You know, as I've said many, many, many times, a static climate is a dead climate. You know, you want a fixed climate, right? One that doesn't alter, one that doesn't get a few degrees warmer, a few degrees colder, right? Go to fucking Mars. That's a static climate. It's a dead planet, right? Climates are supposed to change, right? They're supposed. It's part of the life cycle of a living, breathing planet, right? First of all, it happens whether we want it to or not, whether we had anything to do with it or not. The sheer hubris and arrogance to assume that humankind has anything, you know, significant to do with the climate changing is just astronomically stupid, right? I'm not saying that we don't affect it at all. I'm sure we do. I'm sure the cows do. Farting does, you know. I'm sure all these little factors do play a role. But again, part of the natural living, breathing life cycle of a planet, right? Of this planet in particular, you know. So it's, I don't know, just the idea that we're responsible is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard in my life, right? And even more stupid than that is the idea that we can do anything to stop it. Right? That is just retarded. It is a full on. Like, you know how you never go full retard? Well, climate change activists go full retard. So it is what it is. And this guy, he's on point. He's on point with this entire thing. We're about halfway through. We'll continue.
We are currently in an interglacial of an ice age that started on a Thursday 34 million years ago. And the ice has come and gone. In our last interglacial, sea level was about 7 metres higher. Temperature was about 5 degrees warmer. So if someone says, "Oh, this is the hottest day on record," you have to ask, since when? If it's the hottest day in the last 120,000 years, then that is a record. But since when? So if we go to the peak of our interglacial, which was about 4,000 years ago, it was about 5 degrees warmer. So it's cooler than the hottest temperature on record. If we go to the time of Jesus, when it was warm, it's about 4 degrees cooler than then. If we go to the Dark Ages, go to the Viking Age, we've actually warmed up since then. If we go to the medieval warming, we've cooled down since then. And if we go to the Little Ice Age, we've warmed up since then. So since when? And
that's actually an excellent point, right? Since when? Where does your metric start, right? Where are you measuring from? What are you measuring specifically, right? And the reason that I say this is because a scientist, a pure scientist, is going to look at all available data before he comes out with any kind of conclusions, right? He's going to look at everything that he can possibly get that ties in any way to what he's doing, right? To prove or disprove a hypothesis. Climate activists and the quote unquote scientists who work with them don't do this. They cherry pick, right? They say, oh, well, since recorded history, you know, and they'll go back to like, I don't know, 1700, some shit like that, where somebody wrote down it was hot today in their diary, right? And they'll use that as their starting point, which ignores the overwhelmingly vast majority of historical precedents. It's only very recent. I mean, a couple hundred years in the life cycle of a planet is nothing. It's the blink of an eye, right? You can't get accurate data that way. You know, that you're just leaving too much out. There's too much out there in the ether. You know, and yeah, and that's like Winky Woo points out here. It's like, why are you measuring from that point and not from another? Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like they have to pick a starting point, and instead of going back as far as they possibly can, like for instance, with the geological record, right, which we know doesn't give us all the data, but it gives us a fair amount to give us a rough idea of what was what, when, and when. You'd probably have a much greater understanding of the life cycle of the planet, of the natural ebb and flow of temperature and that sort of thing. And I mean, the guy is just dead on point with this. He absolutely is. You know, you get people like Greta Thunberg, right, going around saying like, "Oh, we're all going to die because the planet's going to explode because it's getting too hot because it's our fault for all letting all the cows fart," or some shit like that, right? And I realize I'm being hyperbolic here. It's fine. But she's still wrong. It's not about climate change. It's about imposing man's will on other men. It has nothing to do with the climate changing. Climate's going to change whether we want it to or not. They know that too. But they're counting on people being too stupid or too lazy to look up the details. So it is what it is. Hey, Kenzo, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. I miss you too. We're finally back online over here. So everybody else is off at Vegas. So it's just me today. But yeah, good to see you, man. The climate goblin. He does kind of look like a little bitty baby orc. He's got them beady little eyes you can probably see in the dark. Oh man, you know it's funny too because a couple years ago when she got started, she was underage. She was under 18, and YouTube has this rule about mocking somebody who is under 18, which I think is a good rule actually, because they're not in a position really to defend themselves very well, and it's something you shouldn't do. You shouldn't go around picking on minors, even if they are saying dumb shit. I mean, I have kids; they say dumb shit too. I said dumb shit when I was a kid. It's fine. You know, it wasn't that big a deal. But now that she's, I don't know, was she like 24 now? Something like that. And still saying the same shit she was saying fucking 5-10 years ago. Right. 10 years is probably a little too far back, but it is what it is. Oh, we have somebody in the backstage. I'm going to bring him up. What's up, buddy?
Not much. About to drive home. How you doing, man?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Just waxing eloquent on the bullshit that is climate change.
What? Climate change isn't... Look, Sam, climate change isn't bullshit. Without humans, there would be absolutely no difference to the climate whatsoever. Ignore... Not the Cambrian explosion. Whatever that one die-off was that killed off the lizard mammal things.
Yeah, see, you're talking about something that climate activists don't go far back enough to include in their data set.
Oh, well, ignore the mini ice age from the, what was it, the 16th century? You know, the one that kind of like deflated crop yields and caused a little bit of starvation. Let's ignore that. That didn't happen.
Funny you mention that, because the gentleman up on screen here with us actually just mentioned that.
Oh, shit.
No, he is a geologist who is straight up debunking the whole thing. It's fucking incredible.
Oh, did he bring up about how the Romans were living in a period of warming very similar to our own?
I don't think he specifically brought the Romans up, no, because unlike certain people I know, he probably doesn't think about the Roman Empire every other second.
I feel like that was a jab at me, and I feel offended.
It was a jab at you, and you should.
It's every third second. The Mongols take up one of those other seconds.
Yeah. Hey, Andy Pickle, good to see you, my man.
Howdy,
So,
Andy.
yes, it is. It is a grift. It's the whole point we've been making here is that climate change activists are not climate scientists. Climate scientists will look at as complete a set of data as is possible and currently available, whereas climate activists will pick a point seemingly at random where it might have been a few degrees cooler, say a couple hundred years ago, and they'll go from there.
Yeah.
Which again,
Or,
like I stated earlier, it ignores the vast majority of data that's available.
yeah, or they will take a point of data and they will sensationalize it. Like, okay, yes, humans have impacted climate change slightly through putting CO2 in the atmosphere, but thinking that is enough to completely erase human civilization.
So have cows.
Decades. Yeah, like it's stupid. No, we're not going to destroy the earth completely. Are we going to have to maybe alter the way we live a little bit?
No,
Maybe.
we're not actually.
In a couple hundred years, maybe.
No, I'm gonna tell you right now. No, we're not. Because by then it'll start cooling again, because that is part of the natural cycle of the planet. The thing about the CO2 thing that they're talking about, which first of all is like a 0.04% variance.
Right, exactly.
Right. It was 0.03% like a couple hundred years ago. Now it's 0.04%. Right. Which is normal. If it drops below 0.02%, plant life starts to die.
Yeah.
Right. No. So yeah, it isn't about the CO2. The CO2 thing is a red herring because everybody knows that CO2 is necessary for plant life, and we need plant life because that produces the necessary oxygen that we require to survive. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Agree to disagree there. Personally, the CIA invented oxygen. Sorry, Sam.
Anyway, no, it's just it is what it is, and any scientist worth their salt should know that. So but I've long held the stance that just because someone's an expert in anything in a particular subject does not mean that they are telling you the truth, because experts are people and people can be bought.
Yeah. Or just because they're an expert doesn't mean that they have the correct perspective on things. Or they may be saying one thing, but then what they're saying is being taken out of context in a way that's beneficial. Like the whole humans have contributed to the warming of the planet, but it does not mean we're going to all die. A news article will cut out the does not mean we're all going to die part and then make the other part big, bold, and red.
Yeah, it just the whole thing's kind of retarded. Hey, Clue, good to see you, my man.
Hey, we're allowed to say the R word?
What, retard?
Yeah, we're allowed to say the retarded word.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that.
Okay,
whatever you like.
Just no bridge clips.
Yeah, it is retarded. The whole thing's retarded. So I'm gonna click on this. We've got about a minute left in this guy's rant, so we'll go ahead and finish that out.
Gotcha. Oh, one question. I'm on a really bad road right now. Is it bleeding through the mic right now?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's it's
Okay.
fine. I can understand you just fine. So
yeah, I'll mute them because I don't want to hear people hearing the government's failures while you're playing this video.
No, fair enough.
I know this is going to surprise you, but we've just come out of a little ice age. What do you think temperature's going to do? Fall or rise? It's been rising since the Maunder minimum more than 300 years ago. So it is no surprise that if you have cut-off times for temperature or for sea level or for hurricanes or whatever, you can spin whatever yarn you want to spin. These 6 great ice ages started when we had more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than now. We have 0.04% of that gas in the atmosphere, and we hear words like emissions. Well, that means nothing to me, because the atmosphere has changed in its carbon dioxide content from over 20% to now, which is really low in geological time. If we halved it, all plant life would die and animals would die.
Yeah, that's by the way, the go check out Wide Awake Media. They do some good work. But yeah, it's the whole thing's just fucking retarded. So we're sitting here, they're telling us that we're on the edge of a kind of, ecological apocalypse, right? Which, first of all, it's not the first or the last time that sort of thing will happen. Again, part of the natural life cycle of the planet. There used to be these giant fucking lizards that walked around on the earth, right? They're all gone. Something happened to them too. And one of the theories as to what happened to them, although not the popular theory, is that something changed in the atmosphere and oxygen became more prevalent, that they didn't in fact breathe oxygen. They breathed whatever came before, and that they couldn't adapt to that, but the small mammals could, which is why, they survived and the big ass thunder lizards died out. Now, again, just a theory, not a lot of evidence to support that, but it's an interesting one, I just think is Shadu on Twitter. He is. I don't know if you're still trying to be a little incognito about that, or what's going on there.
No, I don't mind. Like, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to delete this account. Okay. I'll just switch
Again.
I'll just switch to. You know what? They want to push away my business. I'll just go to Truth Social. Tons of people use that, right? Right. It's not just Trump and Alex Jones. Other people use it, right?
No.
Yeah, no. When I get off the highway, I'll make sure to link it in the chat if Sam's all right with that.
Last one.
Sam, according to the chat, you're roboting.
One before that, and possibly the one before that, all got deleted because he said stupid shit.
I'm just gonna let you know, Sam.
That about sums up.
Yeah.
No, I heard it.
Completely robotic.
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay, gotcha. See, I thought it was me.
Yeah, no, it's coming through clear on my end, but.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, folks, sorry about that. That may be an issue going forward. It is what it is. There's not much I can do about that right at the moment.
Sam decided to secede from the United States. He's currently living in Molossia. He's renting the attic. No. The silence is ominous. It's scaring me. Zillage, to answer your question, I'm currently in the car. That's probably what you're hearing. And then Sam is currently living in the one-bedroom apartment that is Molossia, or one-bedroom house. And he's not disagreeing with me. Ergo, I'm correct. Okay, Sam's internet is being Sam's current internet, so that leaves me to entertain the stream and not get hit by bad drivers.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, he's back. Thank you, Sam. I was about to say something very dangerous. Wait, are you back? Are you back? Okay,
am I?
Back. Good.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you're back. Okay, good. Because there was like a long period of silence where I was quiet because people can't drive, and then I realized, Sam's gone.
I was about to drop out and reset because it wasn't working. I couldn't get it to clear up, but here we are. Chat, sorry about that. It's a thing that may come up from time to time. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the best internet currently. It's something that I can't do much about in my current position, but we will work with what we have. I appreciate you guys sticking around. And all that. So yeah, where were we kidding?
Yeah, no, don't worry. I informed them that you are currently renting the attic of Molossia, so that they understand that you're in a rogue nation state. That they're good.
The attic of Molestia.
Molossia.
It sounds like Molestia.
Do you not know what that is?
No.
I know something Sam doesn't. Ooh, this is nice.
Odds are you probably know a lot of things I don't. I have very niche interests.
That's fair. So Molossia is a micronation. Basically, there was a zoning conflict, and there's a small part of land in, I believe, Nevada, that is technically not part of the United States. So the owner of that plot of land, it's all a goof. It's all like he sells it. He does it for like tourists and stuff, but basically parades himself around as the dictator of like a single house nation.
Okay, so he's one of those micronation people. There's a few of them.
Yeah,
there's a few of them. There's one in Paris that's basically like a big round fucking sphere that's like a house inside it in the middle of a park.
Yeah, and it's no, Molossia is really funny. It was also conquered by a bunch of YouTubers at one point, which is really funny.
I do know a lot about Shark's Clue. That is true. That's accurate. One of my heroes growing up was a woman named Eugenie Clark, who is responsible for about 85% of everything that we know about sharks today. She was an ichthyologist in the 50s and 60s. Brilliant woman. So read all of her books.
Mm.
So she's sort of like, do you know who Diane Fossey was?
No. To quote Joker voice, I don't like women.
Well, first of all, you should go see the movie Gorillas in the Mist. It's based on her life and her work. Sigourney Weaver plays her in that. But she was she was an anthropologist who was studying silverback gorillas up close and personal, and she did a lot of great work with them right up until she was murdered by poachers.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So Eugenie Clark died of old age, and she was not eaten by a shark. You know, she didn't have like a horrible, violent death like Diane Fossey did, but they were both kind of in similar fields, but with different animals.
Gotcha. Something tells me the movie adaptations are probably going to involve her fighting a bunch of Japanese whalers.
No, it wasn't like that at all.
That's sad. That's the one time Hollywood's allowed to like do deviations when like someone's gonna in real life they die in their bed. No, just let them fight the Japanese. That's a much more entertaining death.
As is being studied. Yeah. See, Andy knows who she was, but she was still like she was still talked about when Andy and I were kids, quite a bit.
Gotcha. That was what, before the Civil War, like 1840.
I would like you very much to die right now.
I mean, I'm driving in a college town, so that very well might happen.
Don't die. I was kidding you, dude. It was a joke, sort of. I'm not that fucking old, kid.
Is that a deer?
I mean, yeah. So, anywho, but yeah, long story short, I do know a fair amount about sharks. Not as much as a shark expert would by any means. And I did study quite a bit about reptiles and snakes and such when I was a kid, because when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I really wanted to be a herpetologist, and it wasn't until I was older that I realized that sounds a lot like a herpesologist. But different things.
Very different things.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I my first pet snake was a Western green snake. They're kind of like vines. They're very, very long, but very, very thin, small heads. And I named him, because I was 7, Herpy, after the science, not the sexually transmitted disease. But I didn't know that that's what people were taking it as because I was a kid.
Yeah, you were a kid, and if it wasn't for the disease, herpes would be an adorable name for a snake.
Yeah. Oh, here Andy's contradicting me in chat. He says I am Methuselah. Sam is an ancient eldritch horror. I mean, I'm about middle age for eldritch horrors. As that goes.
Methuselah, that was Noah's grandfather, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
The one that lived to be really old.
Yeah, random question about that. So I remember the movie Noah had him use like a flaming sword to kill a bunch of people. Is that like legit, or is that movie magic?
Oh, that's the movie Noah was complete bullshit.
Okay, because I know
beginning to end, man.
Well, no, I know it was, but I'd heard it drew from the Book of Enoch a lot more than other biblical adaptations did, and I was wondering if that was like a piece of, because I've got a copy of it. I just haven't sat down and read the Book of Enoch.
Yeah. So if he had a flaming sword, he would have had to have gotten that from one of the Grigori.
For those of us who have not read the Book of Enoch, what's a Grigori?
Well, the Grigori are what the ancient Hebrews called them. It translates to the Watchers. The contingent of angels that were sent by God to basically watch over mankind and report back on their progress. And then they decided that they were going to get involved, and they started fucking animals and women, and they created the Nephilim.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, they changed that in the film because in the film what they did was they just wanted to go down and help mankind, and God said no and turned them into stone men. So maybe he did get it from the Grigori, but it was just when they were, stone men instead of Vosh.
Yeah. Welcome in, guys. Coming in chat. Clifton, Aaron.
Howdy, Aaron.
Good to see you. Also, forgot to say hi to Zillage. He's been here for a while, but hi, Zillage.
I thought you had. Sorry, Zillage. I would have said hi if I...
Yeah, but no, it's... So, are you aware... That's actually an interesting topic to me. How good is your esoteric theology? Like, how up on it are you?
Better than your average American, better than your average Satanist, not as good as you, not as good as I probably should be.
Okay. So the Catholic theologians record that there are 9 choirs of angels, right?
Yeah, I know some of them. That's like the Nephilim.
No, the Nephilim are not one of them.
Yeah, not Nephilim. Crap. The Seraphim. That was the one I was thinking of. Like the Seraphim.
You have the archangels, the angels, the powers, the thrones. I don't remember all of them myself. The seraphim, the cherubim, that sort of thing. And some of them, our archangel is considered a choir, except that everybody who's in the archangel category are all the 4 named angels of the Bible who are not Lucifer. Yeah, although you could probably include Lucifer as an archangel, but that seems to be there. Well, there are 7, but only 4 or 5 of them are even named in the Bible.
Okay,
you have Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel.
Yeah.
So, but of those angels, each of them belongs to a separate choir as well. So they're in more than one. Like Gabriel, for instance, is a cherub. Michael is a seraph. That sort of thing. Which implies that the archangel category is not in fact like a specific type of angel so much as it is a rank.
Yeah, like you are of a position of higher authority. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, because I mean, question, Gabriel.
What did the cherubim do exactly?
Okay, so the cherubim are by far the scariest choir, by far.
Fuck yes.
So
okay, carry on.
No. Let me get to it. So you will see on Hallmark cards everywhere these fat little babies with fat little wings that can't possibly support their fucking weight. Going around doing like cute stuff, and they all got little Cupid bows and arrows and stuff, which is funny because they actually mixed up Cupid with the cherubs. Cupid is actually the Roman name for Eros, the Greek god of love, who is the twin brother of Thanatos, the god of death. Neither of them look like cute babies either, but they do have wings.
Thank you, America.
Anyway, So as a result of that, everybody's got this idea in their eye, these little rosy cheeked dudes in diapers with like tiny little wings and shit. That's not what a cherub is. A cherub is described very, very clearly in the Bible and elsewhere as nearly indescribable beings made of wheels and fire, wings and eyes.
Okay, seeing as my real name is Gabriel, I might need to rebrand because that sounds fucking awesome.
It's they're a lot more Lovecraftian than you think they are.
Yeah, that sounds.
They're terrifying. They were the ones. So at the after Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, a cherub was set to guard each of the 4 gates of Eden to prevent them from getting back in. Each of them was equipped with a flaming sword. Not that they needed it. It was apparently enough to look upon them to go mad. A cherub was sent to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. A cherub was sent to visit the plagues on Egypt. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
These are the kind of angels. They were even in some of the more esoteric texts out there that are not, canon to the Bible or whatever. It talks about how cherubs are so vastly different from even the other angels that they might as well be another species, and even the other angel choirs found them unsettling.
So what you're saying is my namesake is based. I like this.
Yeah. Welcome, Caucasian Sasquatch, to the show, brother.
Howdy, Caucasian Sasquatch. Welcome.
Now I have sound.
Yo.
What's up?
How much, man?
And what are we doing tonight?
Oh, well, we were talking about climate change, and now we're on to describing biblically accurate cherubim.
Oh, so fiction. Gotcha.
Well, that's another point of view, but yeah.
No, I was sitting over there playing Minecraft, and I glanced over at my phone, and I went, "No way, I've gotten any emails." No.
Wait, yo,
Yeah, it was last minute.
So is checking my email, apparently. I had like 16 emails. I haven't gotten an email in a week. Suddenly I got a pile of them. Wild. Here I am.
Yeah. So, but yeah, essentially, Shadow, so where we were getting at was that each of the choirs of angels is recognized by the Catholic Church, right? Is it like a different order of creature, although they all fall under the umbrella of angels. Now, the Kabbalists and the ancient Hebrews believe that there are 10 choirs of angels, the 10th being the Grigori, the contingent that was sent to Earth during the time of Noah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But they are fallen because they, like I said, they diddled a bunch of animals and young women and made horrifying giants and chimeras that were
the same difference, isn't it? From that perspective.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you take the Book of Giants from the Dead Sea Scrolls literally, essentially it talks about how the flood was not to punish mankind for their sins, but to kill all of the abominations that the Grigori made.
And based off the different mythologies of the world, it sounds like it wasn't very effective.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that the universe is a lot fucking bigger than that. So, I don't think that everything in the world is necessarily from those stories. But
absolutely. Well, I'm agreeing with you. Actually, I recently saw. I remember sending this to. I think it was this video I sent to Amira, where it was a guy basically breaking down the CIA discovered the spirit world, and he was talking about specifically the memoirs of an individual who did go into the spirit world, and how there are different ecosystems within it, and each of the ecosystems are accessed in different ways, and that's how you have like the different religions. So like Abrahamic thought comes from one part of the spirit world, Eastern Asian comes from a different part, Mesoamerican, etc. And it's also a reflection of the perception of the culture that's coming from. So some of it was probably, stuff that escaped the flood, and then some of it was probably the Norse did some fucky wucky stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
something like
Oakland
that.
is all about knocking on strange women's doors at night.
Where do you actually play Minecraft right now?
Yeah,
I just heard the controller click.
it be happening.
Yo, Sam, you got to coordinate like an SMP. You got to get like a bunch of people together for the Screaming into the Void SMP.
I don't even know what an SMP is.
Basically like a something like Minecraft something. Basically like a bunch of people playing on a Minecraft server and then all of them streaming it and recording it.
Oh, fair enough.
They typically don't end badly. It's just the ones with big name YouTubers typically end badly.
Well, it kind of depends on what kind of players you have that join.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot you off.
Well, highly casual players are almost as bad as actual trolls.
Oh yeah, and then you've also got the Dream SMP one, which had actual fucking pedophiles on it, apparently.
Well, yeah, apparently that's an issue just in general with playing Minecraft. I've been working on this server for about 2 weeks now, and so it's kind of bled into YouTube a little bit. And I can't tell you how many times, four times I've had people pop up on panel while I was playing Minecraft and just immediately go down that road. Apparently they don't check and see whether or not my channel's 18 plus, because it is.
Yeah. As yeah, they don't check to see that stuff. It's just one of those things. Yeah. Real quick before we move on, just because I wanted Shadow to see this. This is an artist's rendering of a biblically accurate angel. It's not the only one out there. Some of them get a little bit more weird than this, but this is one of my favorites.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all of those wheels surrounding him, are made of eyes.
Yeah, I might need to do a little bit of rebranding, seeing as apparently that's what my namesake looks like. So apparently I need to rebrand a little bit.
So like the wheels within wheels of Ezekiel was distinctly different from the wheels within wheels of the angels.
This is true. This is not just the culling from the Ezekiel kind of thing. Here's another one. Let me see if I can bring this up. This, I think, is a little bit more accurate to what Gabriel had been described as.
I mean, if you want an accurate rendition of Gabriel, look at my my picture. Not funny.
Yeah.
Thank you for laughing at my bad joke, Squatch.
Yeah.
At least you're a joke, man. Some people are a sad state of affairs.
Oh, that's so fucking dope.
Yeah. Now imagine that with more like fire and blackness.
So,
all right. So
what you're saying is napalm.
From a personal perspective, when I read these descriptions, and I realize you're going with a highly literal interpretation, I always saw it more along the lines of like peacock's eyes on the feathers. Hence the impression of there being eyes everywhere. And it would be hard to describe a four-winged being with peacock feather type coloration.
Yeah.
Are they aliens?
It's possible. It's possible. I don't know. Like I said, I've never actually witnessed one of these things for myself. All we can go on is descriptions, and yeah, sometimes guys back then, well, even guys today, like, if you see something that you don't fully comprehend, you're going to put it in terms that make the most sense to you. Correct?
Right. Have I ever told you my emu story?
Possibly, but I could stand to hear it again.
Okay, so when I was about 17, I was hired by a farmer to eliminate some pigs that were tearing up a handful of acres of one of his fields. He had gone so far as to build a stand there specifically for whoever he hired to just massacre them when the opportunity approached. So one afternoon, I went out there, was sitting in the stand waiting patiently for the piggies to come along and start wreaking havoc, when I saw a whole slew of turkeys come walking out. except I saw something with the turkeys that I did not recognize. And after looking at it through a scope for a little while, I realized that there's no way I'm going to convince the game warden that I'm not planning on shooting those turkeys, whatever else that might be with it. I went home and I told my pops I saw the strangest thing I'd ever seen. I didn't know what it was, but as soon as I figure it out, I'll let you know. And then, of course, he thought I was blowing smoke up his derriere. But a few days later, I come across a picture of a juvenile emu. I had never seen a juvenile emu before this, not even pictures. But I saw a picture of a juvenile emu and went, that's what I saw. Turns out, a few miles south of me in that swamp, there were 2 emu farms back before Hurricane Hugo. So
I was muted. I was responding, and I was like, why can't he hear me?
because oh God, it sucks so bad.
I've got to go. I've got 1001 masks I'm heading over to right now. Just hopped in because I saw Sam was alone, and I felt like me was better than nothing.
Shadoo.
Squad.
Well, I appreciate you coming, kid.
Yeah. What was that?
I said I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Sorry for derailing things. Hope.
No, not at all. That's what we do here.
I mean, to be fair, to derail, there has to be rails left. But yeah, hope I was entertaining to the chat. And yeah, I'll catch you guys again later. See you.
All right. Have a good one. His link is in the description below. Shadow has been added to part of the rotating cast of characters over here, so you might see more of him in the future. Go check him out. And Squatch, I did not actually expect you to see the email because I sent it 10 minutes before I started the show, so I haven't added your shit in yet, but I will.
Good, bro. Do it. Don't. Whatever you got to do for yourself, man. I'm not too hard to please.
Fair enough. Yeah, and for those of you coming in now wondering where everybody else is at, most of them are on the road right now, or they're in Vegas for the FNT meetup. So they've been doing fun stuff over there all week. Devil did a face reveal, which was fucking incredible. Pretty sure that Dermy is crying like a little girl because he had his eyebrows threaded by Nomi. It just is what it is. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those things. They reached a stretch goal with donations, and that was one of the things that he had to agree to do, was to allow her to thread his eyebrows.
That's just
I've only recently found out what threading eyebrows is. It's fucked up. I'd rather wax them.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I've had my eyebrows threaded once before, and it was because I was doing a vampire-based Halloween costume. And of course, I mean, I already have immaculate eyebrows, but a little bit of polishing goes a long way, apparently. And it's weird, but it's not bad.
The way that Nomi was describing this, because I guess she's got experience doing this professionally, is that she was going to make him bleed and cry.
Yeah, yes, that's not. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how much fur you got up there, but mine are fairly. I mean, mine are fairly elegant to start with. They're not real woolly. So if you were, Iranian descent, one of those with like the monobrow, I could see it being a problem.
I actually do have a bit of a monobrow, and you got to get up close to see it, but it is there.
My favorite was we had this chick in high school, and she fought the dreaded monobrow half her life and finally gave up on it a couple of months ago. She just gave up. But I'm talking full handlebar mustache across the middle of her forehead, man. It is wild.
Yeah. Andy Pickle mentions in the chat, upon first seeing the armored conquistadors in Central America, the locals thought they were one creature. They had never seen a horse and had no mounts of their own. That is actually, from what I understand, The ancient Greeks, the first time they saw mounted archers, they confused them for the same thing. That's supposed to be this where the story of the centaurs comes from. Was basically seeing a man on a horse in a distance and confusing them for one creature.
Yep, that makes sense. It's like their definitions of dragons looking an awful lot like dinosaurs doesn't boggle the mind, in my opinion, because we occasionally find dragon bones too.
Yeah. Well, there's evidence to suggest that there have been saurian type creatures on Earth at the same time as man. Maybe not currently, obviously, but like there's stories in deep in the Congo in Central Africa about something that looks an awful lot like a diplodocus that just roams the
Yeah,
forest.
there's also some really wild stories out west about what do they call it? One dude called it the desert killer chicken, but the description of this thing was a slightly feathered, like a proto feathered theropod, is the description.
So like an Archaeopteryx.
Less defined feathers, more of a proto feather, a woolly theropod kind of. So you're talking
Okay.
Utah raptor size, not Velociraptor. Velociraptor was actually fairly small. We're
Yeah.
talking 8 foot tall.
No, fair enough. But yeah, there. I think there were even stories somewhere. I cannot remember for the life of me where in the world this was, but I believe I heard something about a colony of pteranodons, like 400 years ago, something to that effect.
Oh wow, I've heard that story twice. Once was supposedly from Venezuela. The other was from southwestern Texas towards the Mexican border, where nobody could ever quite hammer out where these things were supposedly at. But there is a number of really excellent period photos of different people posing with what appear to be, for all the world, pterodons.
Yeah,
It's wild.
Nessie comes to mind, possibly a plesiosaur and a elasmosaur, possibly. Um, I got a buddy of mine, and I don't buy into this theory myself because I don't see how this works exactly. But who totally buys into what the hell was his name? Uh, Arthur Conan Doyle. Why am I thinking Arthur Conan Doyle? Edgar Rice
Hollow,
Burroughs, the
right,
Hollow Earth theory. Yeah.
right. Okay.
Um,
I really dig the hollow earth theory. I just don't dig the way it's typically portrayed as in like the Edgar Rice Burroughs version.
yeah, where there's a sun at the center and everything's kind of inverted.
Right. I'm much more inclined to believe in a subterranean race of troglodytes than I am an interior star.
Yeah. I like I said, I don't buy it myself. It makes for entertaining fiction. It absolutely does. But this friend of mine is convinced that there's something to that, and he thinks that one of the entry points to Hollow Earth is Loch Ness,
Huh.
which
That
would
would be
explain Nessie.
possibly. Sure, sure. All right. So let me dig this video up. I'm not going to play it on your channel, but I'm going to send it to you to check it out. Make sure I got the right one. But Honka's reviewed the concept of Neanderthal from the perspective of being a nighttime predator rather, or a subterranean predator rather than an analog of human.
Hmm.
So the premise here is the evolutionary types get muddied, but there's a critical point around 200,000 years ago, immediately before there's humanotype activities documented, but immediately after the humanotype form is solidified, right?
Mhm.
He takes a look at it from that perspective of the Neanderthals in northwestern Italy were utilizing identical tools from the Neanderthals of Central Africa 200,000 years before, 400,000 years before. Identical tools.
Hmm.
And
So the only way that works, I guess, is if you've got a connected, you know, group of a connected habitat or something like that.
Well, no, the perspective that he put forth was that we're giving Neanderthals far too much credit for being human-like. Just because they were shaped like humans don't mean that they did anything human-like. And his proof of this was, we have these weird evidences of Neanderthals occupying quite deeply into caves. Very quite often you find Neanderthal dung quite a bit deeper than you have pre-industrial human dung, right? And we can tell the difference in them because of the types of stuff they ate. And these coprolites actually prove that these Neanderthals were going very, very deeply into caves and not utilizing ancillary light sources that would leave evidence. So no torches, no lamps, no candles, nothing like that.
Yeah,
So
I wonder if
I'm working on it. Go
I wonder if there might have been something like maybe perhaps they had eyes that were not particularly good, so they didn't rely on them. They used their
ahead.
other senses to get around, which would, they wouldn't need that much light in the dark then anyway.
The way this dude goes at it is he suggests that they were largely Neanderthal Profile of a Super Predator, written by, it was done 13 years ago by Danny Vidramani. And he basically takes all of the evidence we have associated directly with only Neanderthals. We're not talking about any of the weird overlapping human habitation of various caves and stuff. We're specifically speaking of specifically Neanderthal occupations. In these occupations, you occasionally find evidence of fire, but it's not all the time. You sometimes find evidence of a possible what might be string, but may also be just kids playing with bits of thread. There doesn't really seem to be a direct throughput as far as the technologies that are found in various Neanderthal locations versus the technologies utilized by contemporary humans of the time. So he proposed that the reason the Neanderthals survived so late into the modern era was because in the individual pockets, this may be true for Denisovans as well, they retreated underground, which is why we sometimes have Neanderthal DNA popping up in like substantially more modern populations, 10,000, 11,000, 14,000 years ago, because as the colonies underground eventually die out, the survivors would surface. Probably not be nice.
Yeah. It's interesting because aren't Neanderthals generally considered a separate species from Homo sapiens sapiens? Like they're connected by genus or family or some shit, but they're not the same species. Closely related, kind of like I guess different species of dogs, for example. They can interbreed, but they're not the same.
Dogs are all the same species, but you do have different canids. You have foxes, you have coyotes, and you have wolves. And between those three, you have dogs, which has a few little toss-ins from almost all of them. When you're looking at the human stock, when you're talking about simply animal husbandry, the genetic bias of survivability being the primary driving force behind reproduction, what you end up seeing is about midway through the what would that be? It'd be 26,000, around 26,000 years ago. There is a massive move from Neanderthal type technology everywhere to a more Moostrian, a later stone lithic tech, and I can't help but think that these weird forays into an established lithic technology that's 10,000 years old in Africa, but wasn't seen in Northern Europe until 29,000 years ago, and then it was abandoned after 1,000 years. They stopped using it completely and went back to using the old Neanderthal tried and true methods. And that says something. I think that says something to an inability to accept change.
I could. They say that every species can smell its own extinction, and I wonder if it had something to do with sort of symbolically fighting against that.
Well, I've always kind of felt like around 26,000 years ago, whatever the particular change in the human side of this equation, I think we started eating them.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, the
That
reason I
wouldn't
think
surprise me
that
a little bit.
is when you look at the spread of Neanderthal sites next to the spread of modern human sites, next to the spread of Cro-Magnon sites, Cro-Magnon just draws up like a dry lake all of a sudden, like we straight out bred them. That's an obvious interpretation of the data. When you look at Neanderthals, though, that doesn't seem to be the case. We out competed them in different areas at different times over the course of thousands of years. And in so doing, we either completely avoided them or around 24,000 years ago decided they were on the menu. Because after that, we find virtually no fossils from Neanderthal in northern Africa, anywhere this would have had an effect. It's not until you get into later more distant out of Africa discussions that you start getting into like the Mongolian Neanderthals, the northeastern European Neanderthals. These are slightly different critters. They're not quite the same thing, but they use almost identical tech, which is why they're all lumped together. I might have read too much about this. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I find it curious though that disparate groups, like if there are genetic differences between different groups of Neanderthals in different parts of the world, why are their tools the same?
I think it has to do
Right.
with a genetic predisposition of like what do they call it? Observational bias. Things have been such a way, so they will continue to be such a way. And just like the old man in the village warns against hunting the new hunting ground, there might be a reason for that children don't remember, but he does.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's one of those things because even if you look at like human beings, right? You take the same group of human beings, say there's 100 people in this group, and they come to an area that's got two valleys in it, right? And they split in half. 50 goes in one valley, 50 goes the other, and they found their respective communities or whatever. In 100 years' time, those communities are not going to have all that much to in common because that's just the nature of how things change.
Cultural drift is what you're speaking
Yeah.
of. It happens.
Essentially, yeah. So why would that not have happened with Neanderthals? Is what I'm getting at.
It did happen, but you have to understand their technology was largely based off of a crystalline structure found in the ground. They don't seem to have experimented much with anything else. They found something that worked, and they were willing to travel 100, 200 miles to go get a piece of it so that it would work for them, which is wild.
Yeah. I wonder if they were migratory.
I'm certain of it. I picture it like this. You have habitable caves strung all across the Caucasus, right? Now I'm just going to use the mountain chains right there in Eastern Europe as our basis because that's where we get most of our data from. And when you look at the data, what you find is intermittent occupation up to a point, and then almost continuous occupation, and then it goes back to being intermittent and interspersed with human occupation that is lighter than the early Neanderthal occupation from like the early days of it.
Real quick, In the chat there, Aaron Lauren, talking to Andy Pickle, says you should read Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Daniken if you're interested in the ancient alien stuff. I will say this. I will thank Eric von Daniken because his work inspired the movie Stargate, which spawned my favorite sci-fi, series of all time. But that man has done a ton, almost as much damage to historical anything as E.A. Budge did with his fucking his quote unquote translations of Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Zachary
I was
Stitch,
just saying, yeah,
and Tap.
it-
Yeah.
it's a very entertaining read. If you're in it for entertainment, I'd say Chariots of the Gods is a good book to read. But if you're looking for anything of like substantive
Take it.
value, I mean, it's take it for what it is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I take it as an invitation to think outside the box about data we've already made decisions.
Yeah.
So the spacesuits, having bags and wearing watches and stuff, that's wild. That's pretty freaking wild, man. I don't think it would necessarily have to be a spacesuit. It wouldn't have to be a watch. It could be any number of things. What purpose they may serve, I don't know. It's kind of odd that all of the Mayan leaders had a watch.
Did you ever read Strata by Terry Pratchett?
I'm positive. I've read everything that man ever wrote.
Okay, so in this novel, the science fiction novel, for those of you in chat who haven't read it, this first of all laid the groundwork for what later became Discworld, which was his biggest and most recognizable kind of intellectual property. But in this, there's a company, and this company's sole purpose is to construct planets upon which then settlers will be deposited to live or die according to their ability, right? Occasionally, somebody gets bored at this company when they're laying the strata, when they're building the planets, and they will build they'll put weird things in the ground for future archaeologists who are descended from the original colonists to dig up, like a triceratops with a Rolex,
right?
Kind of shit. And that's what that reminds me of. It's like, I don't know, maybe whoever made the planet was just fucking with future generations.
You know what my mama told me about dinosaur bones when I asked her, because we were having this I was way too young to be having this conversation, but apparently I was asking some fairly pointed questions. But I was like, you got these people over here who say the world is flat. You got these people over here who say the world is round. You got these people over here who say they've been to the moon. You got these people over here saying they haven't gone there. How are you supposed to look at all this and parse it out? And she said, well, I personally believe there is a creator, and I can't prove it to you. But I can tell you this. If he hadn't put all them bones in the ground, it'd be a very boring day for an archaeologist, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I think about that every time I come across some tidbit of information that just doesn't fit. Like, there's bunches of them. There's lots of them. Like those weird little jacks looking things that the ancients used to make from single rocks, right? Got a little ball inside of it. How beyond how that was made, what purpose did it serve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. There are times when I do think that to quote the late great Bill Hicks, it's like, you ever think that God might be fucking with our heads? It's like, all these dinosaur bones in the ground, be like, oh, they'll for sure believe in me now.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a trickster god.
Yeah, Bill Hicks. Anybody who hasn't come across the Bill Hicks monologues of various descriptions, by all means, man, go check him out. He says Alex Jones things before Alex Jones was saying Alex Jones things, which is funny.
Yeah, but he was funny about it. He was a comedian. Real quick, I'm gonna disagree, Andy. I don't believe. I mean, yes, it's got farcical things in it, but it's the thing about tries to be hitchhikers. I would agree that the first couple of books lean that way. Yes, but there are 44 books in that series, and they become very much their own things. Got nothing to do with any. He gets compared to Douglas Adams a lot. I take Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett as two very different things.
They're very different. The premises behind the individual stories are synonymous because we're dealing with, a human-centric world in both cases, where they both take the just absolute absurdity of us thinking we are the only species anywhere ever and thinking that we're important and just slaps you. Like in Discworld, the main character of the first handful of books, Rincewind, can't even spell wizard right.
That's true.
His
Spells
hat
it wrong
has
on his
two
hat.
Z's. Wizard.
Yeah. Well, the first two books are really one book, but if you look at them, and they are there is a story buried in there, but it's mostly tropes and chaos. It's kind of like he was trying to find his footing with that. They don't become like, narrative books until after that. And then I think it's around the time of Guards that they really start to settle into form. But maybe it was Weird Sisters.
That is one of I know you have, because it's associated with Discworld, but the We Free Men series and the those all of those are fucking
I give you such a kicking.
Hey, give you a nut. Take the sheets. You see his feet just zooming across the belt. It's like it's not walking.
Yeah, but I look at him very differently. Like Douglas Adams has like the Hitchhiker's Guide trilogy, which he insisted, and I swear to God this is true, he insisted to the day he died that it was a trilogy, despite the fact that it consists of 5 novels and a fucking short story. Is a little bit less of a cohesive story as it is a number of philosophical, like Andy was saying, philosophical ideas put into a science fiction context with comedy. While there are things that are carried through to the through line, like the "oh no, not again" thing that comes back, and like I think it was mostly harmless. Whichever one Arthur Dent learns to fly in. And so there are some things that carry through like that, but for the most part, it seemed like he was trying to find a way to work out ideas, whereas Discworld is satirical. It's very, very satirical of the world that we live in, and I know that that to a degree, so is Hitchhikers, but one of them seemed like Douglas Adams seemed like he was fucking high on shrooms the entire time he wrote that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that, but I have a comparison. Okay, first of all, I don't think comparing Discworld to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is fair at all. These are such different genres. The only real throughput that you have there that you can utilize to compare the two, it's not apples to apples at all. It breaks down to the individual stories, the individual tales that are being told, and how they relate to current events of his day and age. It doesn't so much apply to us, but there's a much better analogy between the two, or rather not between the two, but of Pierce Anthony's The Magical Land of Xanth. It's straight up a communist utopia, and it still sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's a communist utopia built upon the fundamental principle of puns.
Yeah, like you're not wrong. I'm not saying it's a great series, but my point is, in the land of Xanth, you are born with a talent or you get booted out. Until Trent takes over, this is the law. They will give you the big boot. You get kicked out into the worst place possible, a veritable hellscape called Mundania, which is apparently somewhere in Florida. But the thing is, this is a world in which food literally grows on trees. You go pick shoes, pants, clothes, hats, anything you want grows on trees. And yet there is still a dystopian monarchy in command. And even when the great big bad evil guy takes over and makes it a great happy kingdom with a dynasty and stable and no more warfare and none of that stuff's happening anymore, it still sucks.
It does. I haven't read those books since I was a kid. In fact, the only one I remember really clearly off the top of my head was Ogre with Smash, the
I like that. It's pretty much the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was yeah, kind of cool. Xanth is Florida if Florida was a magical commie utopia filled with puns.
Puns, so many puns.
Like even the map of the world is Florida. It's Florida.
The difference is Florida is sea level, and Xanth occupies a higher dimension directly on it. They use the same map, but they're mountains in Xanth.
Yeah, it's a strange series. With some
after about the sixth book, Nightmare, I think it's where Gollum and the Gears. Gollum and the Gears is where he jumps the shark. He drops the thread. After Gollum and the Gears, it's all for money. It's a for-profit series, nothing else.
Yeah, because there's like 14 more, and they all kind of suck a little more than the last.
Still read them all.
I think I did too, but I preferred Incarnations of Immortality. I think that was a very well done series.
Yes. There's another series he did that I liked. It's his take on the three body problem, right? It's his take. I think the name of it is Triple Detente. In the book, and I think it might either be just one or two books. It might be a duology. I can't remember. But in the book, humans receive a signal from aliens, and they're on their way to take over our planet, and they're going to kill us all. And so we build up a big fleet, and we're going to go meet them in space. And right before we leave, we get a message from another alien race saying, we're on our way to go kill this other race that's going to go kill you. And the humans look at each other and go, hey, wait a second. Instead of going to fight these people that are coming to kill us, let's send a significant portion of our fleet off to the unoccupied planet over here that has no defenses, and we'll take them hostage because they're taking the enemy home planet hostage. And our enemy will have our home planet, but they won't be able to do anything because we'll have them by the short and curlies. And it becomes a rock, paper, scissors of argument between essentially three alien races, kind of very much like the Incarnation series, in that you could make the argument that that whole series is basically an angel, a devil, and an immortal having a conversation in a back room while drinking absinthe.
Yeah.
I just summed up like 27 books. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a good way to put it. I've been ruminating on Xanth a little bit, and like clue to give you an idea of the kind of puns we're talking about. We're not talking about good puns. We're not talking about even necessarily fun ones. They were horrendous. Like the one that comes to mind was the cat ass trophy, which is a plaque that mounts a cat's butt on a wall. But when he pulls the plaque off the fucking wall, it turns out it's the fucking linchpin of the whole goddamn mountain he's in, and the whole thing comes down.
It's a catastrophe.
It's a catastrophe, or a cat ass trophy.
Right.
It was super stupid.
Computer.
Yeah.
I think probably my favorite out of all of them. Now, of course, the Source of Magic is really, really, really good. It's one of the best. But for my money, pound for pound, the best book in that series was Castle Rugna, when Dolph went back in time through the tapestry. All right, let me explain a little bit about this place, because this is just going to fall on deaf ears for anybody who hasn't come across. This is a world where every single person born in this place has a natural talent, a magical thing that they can do, and no one else can do it. And it might be spot on the raw variety where you might be able to literally put a spot on a wall and that's it. But it's magic, damn it. And that counts. Or
I'm
you
pretty sure
might
there's a
have,
guy who can guess the color of any given woman's panties.
well, I mean, you can make the argument that's good magician Humphrey, but he is just a dirty old gnome with clean socks. What I'm getting at is there are multiple tiers of power. You have people who can conjure swords out of thin air, just literally just pluck them out of the air. They're a brand new sword, freshly made. It's awesome. Then there's people that can conjure and throw swords with the magic. And they are real swords. They don't disappear. They're permanent. And then you have people who can do things like mount an artificial magical army. And these people are magician caliber at whatever they do. So the Storm King could summon hurricanes and multiple tornadoes and strike lightning on the ground in a particular spot at a particular time. King Trent, a magician caliber talent, could transform anything or anyone alive into any other living thing. But my favorite, and I actually named my daughter after this character. I love that series so freaking much. And I love the character so much. Ivy. She might be the second most powerful wizard in all of Xanth. And it is because she enhances whatever she perceives to be better. And she's a good girl. And she believes people are really good. And because she believes it to a magician caliber, it is true.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read any of that stuff, man. Actually
It's on
am
YouTube
looking for
if you want to just play it in the background sometime. The whole
I,
series.
I do listen to readings and books on tape and stuff sometimes when I'm working. But every once in a while your search for something new will take you to like places you didn't expect. Like did you ever read the Dan Simmons books rather, Ilium and Olympus?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's so essentially Ilium is a retelling of the Trojan War with the gods actually present, but it all takes place at the foot of Olympus Mons on Mars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a bunch of other shit that goes along with that. Like there's
Yeah,
robots
there's a
out by
bunch of
Jupiter, and
crap.
there's Caliban lives in an abandoned space station orbiting old Earth. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it is. I think I listened to those as audiobooks.
Yeah, and essentially what it is it's not actually the original Trojan War happening again. It's that these entities from old Earth who are basically Methuselah-like souped up, genetically modified superhumans, have decided that they want to they want to experience it for themselves. So they clone a bunch of people and give them the personalities and the DNA of people who've been dead for thousands of fucking years, and they set them at odds. And it's all told through the eyes of this man who was deliberately designed to basically be the chronicler,
The Observer.
of this tale. Yeah, the observer. And it's a weirdly engaging novel. And then Olympus is the sequel to that, where it gets more into like the alien influence and all of that stuff, and the gods themselves maybe not being maybe being genetically engineered proxies, kind of thing. It's a whole deal. It was interesting though. So
I have
he
watched
also
all of Fallout in the past 2 days, most of it twice.
I haven't watched a single episode, and I don't think I'm going to.
Do you play Fallout?
I have played Fallout. I don't currently play Fallout.
Okay. So they do something really clever with the plot here. You have the end of the world, as is depicted in all of Fallout, and then you have a secondary calamity which takes place, and it causes the timeline to appear to be really screwed up. Because, of course, the bomb dropped 200 years ago, right? Well, if the
Right.
bombs dropped 200 years ago, why does this kid remember the bombs dropping? It doesn't make any sense. All of this gets wrapped up in a nice little bow before it's all said and done. Although I do feel like they really wanted to push the cryo aspect of it, and they didn't so much.
Hmm.
I just want to say, if you are a Fallout fan and you like Fallout for the aesthetic of Fallout and the jokes of Fallout and the stupidity of Fallout, then go watch it. Don't worry about all that crap. And as far as that baby that was in the first handful of scenes, okay, sure. I couldn't guess what this individual might actually call themselves, but they have no bearing on the general story, and no aspect of politics comes into it except as specific events in canon, in world. So when you have the question of, is it woke? You also have a main character that's a ghoul, and another ancillary character that's a mutant. So how hard am I going to hate on a little diversity mixed in there? Cleverly done.
I mean,
It
kind of depends on. It depends on what you're talking about. Like if you're referencing what Adam said last night, that's kind of how his channel works. So he does kind of lean into that a little bit. But in terms of like, like did you happen to catch the One Piece live action remake on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a character in it. Yeah, there's a character in it, a young man named Kobe, who has pink hair and glasses, and he's weak and he wants to become strong, right? What I didn't find out till afterwards was that Kobe was played by a transgender boy or a girl, really. But the thing is they never mention it in the show. It never comes up. It has nothing to do with the show. They don't talk about like it's not focused on identity politics or anything. All I saw was a pretty good actor playing a character that I found interesting.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at here is it's done in a way that doesn't beat you in the face with an ideal or a politic, right? You're not being punched with it. Instead, they go a little different. Like people who really like, I'm not a huge Fallout fan, but I do watch Oxhorn when I'm taking a shower and whatnot. So I'm familiar with a lot of it. At the very beginning of the series, they go through and break down individual skills. They basically do the special chart, right?
Oh, nice.
The stats. And she never names a number, but she tells you pretty good at this. I'm not real good at that. I'm really good at this. I'm not real good at that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. When she actually starts, that scene where the young, impressionable woman turns into an absolute barroom brawler with a whole bunch of big, beefy guys, and she just beats them unmercifully. There are scenes like that in this movie, in this show, but it goes totally different because for a few seconds there, she's pretty good at this kind of stuff. So it's like pop, pop, pam, 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 boom, and everything's happening, and then something just goes. She's outmatched by somebody who's just stronger. And it just shows it. They just grab her, throw her across the room. Like,
I've been hearing pretty good reviews in general about it myself. It's not been I wasn't particularly interested in watching it in the first place because I honestly, if I want to get back into Fallout, I'll go play the games. There's tons of fucking lore and story in there that I can actually get involved with, as opposed to watching a TV show based on something I could just as easily play. And that's really my only reason for not doing it, is because I played those games. If I want to do that again, I'll go do that again. I don't necessarily need to watch an adaptation of it.
Well, I think this has an interesting niche. I was not left unhappy by it, is what I'm saying. I watched it all the way through, and then I sat down last night after I finished it, and I was like, And when I got up this morning, I picked up, I think, where my wife stopped watching episode 4 or so, and we watched all the way up right before the end of the show. I'm not left unhappy. There's some things that don't make sense. There's some serious lore issues. There's things like people that are supposedly inside that got outside, but then back inside, but we've never opened the door. And so I've had some issues with things like that.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. That's why I went back to watch it again, was because there's some timeline issues I have with it. But otherwise, it seems to be pretty well done.
I could see that. I have heard that there are certain major canonical events that were, you know, out of order in the TV show as to when they were happening. But that's again something I've heard. I haven't seen it myself, so
it like I was saying, okay, so and there, let's say there was the end of the world, and then 100 years later there was a second end of the world. Like some recovery took place and another bomb got dropped. And so there are, within memorable 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this happened. And so people are adult today who remember that bomb dropping, and that's not clarified through most of the series. So you see people who remember the bombs dropping. They tell you they remember, and because of that duplicity and timeline there, you have some, and this is depicted actually in the show. I went back and was looking at the dates on calendars and stuff in the background. The people who live outside of this area, they are absolutely positive it's 2274. The people who live within a certain distance of this secondary round of bomb dropping are convinced that it's only 23 years after the end of the world. The rest of the world is wrong. Then there are a handful of people from the actual city that was nuked that survived, and their children know that that wasn't the original bombs dropping. That wasn't the original apocalypse. That was a secondary apocalypse that happened locally, but they can't convince anyone between here and there of it. And so there are, I'm almost positive there are different dates given for when it supposedly is and when the bombs dropped. It's wild. And I'm in the process of like trying to parse some of that together from like background clues. I'm looking, every scene is a painting kind of approach.
every scene a pause.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Or every frame of pause.
Every frame of pause. Well, I'm just saying this, if you, there's a lot of background information built into the game, and so it would make sense for whoever was taking responsibility of this to include massive amounts of background lore in each frame.
I am curious about one thing in particular about it, though. Did they happen to mention that the war was started by the Chinese?
As far as the actual the show is concerned, it doesn't specify who actually starts it, but it definitely implies that the 5 or 7 major businesses got their fingers in the pie way early. So they were talking, there is this one scene with a bunch of big wigs from different corporations talking about the things they could do with the vaults, but only if the bombs drop, and it's kind of left hanging. Like somebody pulled the trigger. It's implied that corporations, and that it was capitalism that caused it to happen.
Well, that's why I was curious about that, is because they implied that capitalism caused that to happen. That's why I was wondering if they mentioned that the Chinese started the war, because if I remember the games right, the Chinese, the Chi-Coms invaded Alaska, and that's what started the war.
But what started the bombs dropping was a single, supposedly a bomb detonating in New York, and it was assumed that the Chi-Cons did it. And so after that happened, the birds are in flight. I believe it was either Vault Tech or what's the other one? Robotnik, flashbacks. I can't remember. Robotech.
Yeah, it's shit, I don't remember. The ones that make the Mr. Handies.
Yeah. What's really cool though is they show some pre-war footage from in the show, and it has to do with the Red Scare and how the commies are taking everything over. But everything is upside down. It's all in flip verse. Like the guy that is the main character in this section is an avowed American and an avowed, well, I don't know about capitalist, but he's certainly willing to make the money. But everyone around him seems to frown on that whole concept. They all hate the corporations he works for, the advertisements he does, and he starts getting blacklisted for working with Vault Tech unless he works with Vault Tech. It's a really weird flex in the middle of it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something maybe I'll consider it down the line, but right now I'm just
Promise
not
me one
super.
If you watch the first episode, watch the second episode before you quit. Because
If I decide to watch it, I'll watch the whole thing.
You're gonna jettison it out as absolute buffoonery. The first episode's not great.
Yeah, let me put it this way. I have this inability to not finish things. So if I start watching it, I'm going to finish it even if I hate it. It's just it's one of those things I don't which is part of why I haven't started watching it, is because I don't know if I want to, but if I do, I will watch more than the first episode. That's true.
Another one I'm excited for. I'm freaking biting at the bit. I'm chomping at the bit on this one. Amazon's doing Overlord. A series. It's a Japanime series style series. I don't know who's doing it. I just know it's attached to Amazon. It quietly just popped up in the past few months, which gives me hope that it's going to be derived largely from the source material. In the source material, a game like World of Warcraft is
that Overlord,
right? And
the person where you're a badass who commands goblins to go basically murder everything.
Well, yes and no. In the series, in the books, the guy was a primary, A tier, top tier player. One of the establishing guilds. He run mass raids and stuff. He planned all kinds of stuff in the game, and he decided he wanted to be the last man on the server. Now, it's not live action. It's done in animation. So he stayed on, and the game collapses around him and then is rebuilt. And now, instead of being a player character, he is the overlord of the tier 1 through 6 dungeon. And he is responsible. In the series, there's a critical thing, and I'm just going to kind of gloss over this bit. He is not a bad guy. Yes, he is a necromancer of infinite power, perfectly willing to take over the world. But the reason he wants to do that is because all this magic stuff that's going on, it's going to tear the universe apart. Y'all got to stop that. He's perfectly willing to use necromancy and evil to get there. That's the thing.
Did you ever see that meme? The one where the warrior's like, with my sword I will avenge my brother, and the elf goes, and you have my bow, and the dwarf says, and my axe, and the necromancer says, and your brother. It's just his corpse.
Yeah, he's gonna have
shambling around.
Somebody give him a sword. Dude, you remember the old Baldur's Gate game? The one where you could have 6 characters. You had a main character, and then you could accumulate 6 characters.
I remember it. I don't think I ever played it, but yeah, I remember it.
Okay. I was playing that game this many moons ago, and I had a skeleton, a tier 5 skeleton glitch. And every time I would change screens, he would respawn fresh. And he just stuck, and we named him George and made him part of the party. because I wasn't losing anything for him showing up. He would just be there, and I don't know how it happened or what was going on with it, but he leveled with me. He tiered up with me, and it was wild. I would walk into some random place I haven't been before. It'd be that fog of war black around me everywhere. And George would just wander off in yonder, come back a little while later. Oh, I guess it's all dead now. Okay.
You know, it's funny sometimes when the AI is supposed to be controlling stuff like that, and it just kind of does whatever. There was a game years ago called X-Men Legends, and I think it was in the sequel X-Men Legends 2. It's made by Activision, and it was a 4-player drop in and drop out co-op RPG where you can play various characters of the X-Men. Every time I got to there was a specific point where you're invading Apocalypse has set up his temple in the heart of New York, right? So you got to go in there and you got to fuck it up. And if I had Nightcrawler in my party, he would just teleport through the fucking walls ahead of me and start murdering everything for like the whole level ahead of me. I'd catch up to him and there'd be all these dead acolytes. And I'm just like, okay, thanks, buddy.
There was a game years ago called Shining Force. And in this game, it's basically your standard side scroll or top down, depending on which one's 2, 3, or 4. Top down or side scroll RPG. You gain levels and stuff. In Shining Force 2, there was this cave that was supposed to be impassable. And it's one of those situations that really makes you mad. There's a vendor right before you go in the cave. And then when you come out the cave on the other side, he's over there. This is the fastest way to that point. So how's that even possible? I hate that crap. Anyway, in this cave, you have the opportunity to pick up a troop of flying monkeys. And this is the only board in the game that you can go backwards through and reset. I played through, got my butt kicked by the main boss. And then I played through up to that board and went back and forth through it until I had accumulated. There's this axe that has a 50-50 chance of killing anything. Each monkey can wield one of these axes. You can put 4 monkeys in a troop. You can put 4 troops in a group, and you can put 4 groups on a square. 32 God axe killing wielding flying monkeys that can attack anywhere on the board at any time. They would just split up and kill everything on the board and come back. In this game, you could save your characters and go and play against your friends and their party. And we all got together one afternoon. We was gonna see who had the biggest wick, you know. We started up, and Jeff and Daryl went at it. Jeff won, and then Josh and Daryl went at it. Josh won, and Jeff and Josh went at it. Josh won, and then I killed Josh. And then I killed Jeff, then I killed Daryl, then I killed him. They're like, what the hell is going on? You only have one character. The rest are flying monkeys. Hundreds of them. And every one of them could kill God himself on a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. I don't know. Lately, like I said, I haven't picked up anything like that in a long time. I've been so on the 23rd of April, 2 games are being released that I'm looking very much forward to. One of them is the Suikoden 1 and 2 remaster collection bundle, which I'm very much looking forward to that because I love that series. The other one is a game called Aiden Chronicle 100 Heroes, which was written by the guy who created Suikoden, also being released on that same day. And these are like old school turn-based, 6 members of your party RPGs with pixel art, kind of thing. And so I've been looking forward to that. But I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring offline again, because apparently there's a DLC coming out in like 2 months, and I can't use my current character because the enemies scale with you, and that would not go well. So I started a new character so I can get to the DLC.
that reminds me of playing Chrono Trigger. Do you remember Chrono Trigger?
I do, yeah.
The enemy in there scales with you. So the first time I fought Lavos, I thought, I'm gonna get that bitch next time.
Yeah,
I did not.
Elden Ring, man. I'm at the end of my third playthrough, so it's like game plus plus, right? And I'm at the Elden Beast, which is the final boss of the game, right? And the first 2 times I played through, I fucking spanked that son of a bitch. The second time I beat the rotting chick with the swords. I forget what her name is, McKenna or something like that. Michaela's sister. And no problem. But the first time through, I couldn't beat her because she was, overpowered. Second time through, I came in and kicked the shit out of her. Well, this time I skipped that part because that fight sucks, and I already have that equipment that I can get from her. So fuck it. But I get to the Elden Beast, and for some reason, I cannot beat this son of a bitch, even though I am super tough at this point, and I've already kicked his ass real thoroughly twice before. But now he's scaled up. That son of a bitch scaled up, and I'm fucking stuck at the end of the game again. So I'm just like, I'm not using that character for Shadow of the Erdtree. That's not going to happen because that will not go well.
Yeah. I played a Wizardry 5, and it's not turn-based. I guess it is turn-based, but it's kind of like a pre-Minecraft sort of 3-dimensional world. It's terrible. It's real bad. It's all the horrible things of 8-bit, 16-bit. In it, the main boss's name is Wordna. And the only reason he's evil is because he's been cursed to do things backwards. And so he's really trying to help you out.
Yeah.
God tier powers and misunderstandings, but it's wild.
Right. All right, folks. I think we'll probably call it here because my StreamYards is trying to glitch the fuck out again. It's not my internet this time, it's the software. So but we are about at 2 hours as well, so a little less than that, and it'll be fine. We'll be closer to that by the time we actually end the stream. But and it's been good. It's been a better show than I expected. I thought it was just going to be me fucking yakking into the darkness for a couple hours.
Well, I'm generally available Saturdays. I've kind of stopped doing my own show at 8 because I do the Blast Radius Sunday nights at 8, and that's a much more serious production than anything else I do. So I just take the extra day. I do appearances and whatnot.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I will keep that in mind. And actually, I might just add you into the SITV chat group if you don't have an issue with that.
Go ahead.
So that way, if you're available, you can come in. If not, it's no big deal. That kind of thing.
Do your thing.
Yeah. All right, folks. So first, I'd like to thank Shadow for joining us. That was very cool of him. He did not need to do that, but it was appreciated, and we did have some good conversation there. Secondly, thank you all for sticking with me despite my inconsistency lately, and not just in internet, but also in appearance, I guess, appearances rather. So do appreciate all of you guys. Caucasian Sasquatch, thank you very much for being here. As always a pleasure, my man. And that said, do you have anything coming up that you wanna tell anybody about before we go?
Tomorrow, I'm doing the Blast Radius with Captain Curmudgeon. I've also got some skits coming in from other creators now. It's taken me about 6 months to get them to actually trust me to do it, but Untethered Live does something he calls the Hyper Bowl during that time. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it's basically a really terrible news show where we just basically clown on everything. It's the descent of Western civilization.
It sounds kind of like what we do here sometimes. Yeah. Cool. For my part, I don't think I have anything planned until Monday. There might be a Linus show tonight, might not. We're not 100% sure. She is currently on a debate right now on the Chaotic Truth channel. So which I plan to jump over to watch the remainder of that after we get done here. But she may go on and do another show tonight. She may not. I I don't think she's quite decided on that yet. So possibly there. Otherwise, you can find me on the Renaissance Nurse channel on Monday for Mellow Mondays, and then back here for Bissell Musings over on Beelzebub Hub for Beelzebub, and then back here for Screaming to the Void next week. I have cut down a little bit on the number of appearances that I do in a week. But again, thank you guys for being here. Everybody on Twix, everybody on Rumble, really appreciate you guys. As always, my YouTubers, thank you very much. Remember, it could always be worse. It could be raining flaming cobras. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.